Welcome to DP2 Insights. This is Pat DeLuca. In this video we're going to be taking a look at creating composite layouts, and as you can see here, this one picks up where the other one left off, and I want to just repeat at the beginning of this one there are three dependent pieces to successfully generating composite jobs. The first is the pattern or the range of patterns. The second is the composite layout collection. And the third, of course, is actually generating the jobs in the Composite Job Generator. So in the pattern video, we looked at how to create these patterns. In this video, I want to talk about the composite layout edit and process, because this is an important part of understanding the three pieces and how they work together. The first step is to select, the easiest way to do it actually, is to select when you're creating your patterns, or if you open up to edit patterns, right, because you can take it from that direction as well. If I had closed this, and maybe I'll do that just to show you, if this were not open, I could simply, I'm in the user taskbar, grids, edit patterns, I'm going to select to open a pattern, and I'll just select that top 26 that we started with. And DP2 is open that first pattern. This is going to give me access to the Create Grid Layouts button here in the pattern editor. I'll select to create the grid layouts. This opens up the new composite window. You could also create a new composite from the product window. You'd simply right click on it and select new composite instead of new product. What this interface allows you to do is make a series of decisions about what that composite layout is going to look like. In this particular case, this composite layout is the generic. It's actually pointing to the last one I created, and there's a few things that we'll want to do if we want to make it specific to this pattern. So again, units is inches. The first decision that we're going to make is the background size, just like in any other product. And the background size here is 10 by 8, or a landscape. The composites generally, the decisions you make about the pattern and the shape of the pattern are going to relate to the decisions you make about whether or not it's portrait or landscape in the composite layout itself, because you want to build those relationships as you go. The margins can be whatever you want. By default, they sit at 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to leave it here for the purposes of this. With the left, right, top, and bottom margins can be whatever you need them to be in inches. The product information is the product ID, and if you have any experience with DP2, you know that the product ID needs to be unique, because that is a primary key to identify this product or this set of grid layouts for these patterns. The description here is the last one. It was a green oval. I'll just leave it as green. The category, I have this category in the test school, but you'll have selectable here any of the categories that you're currently using in your lab. I could change it here. Over here on the right hand side we have what are called node sizing and styles. There's a couple of things to keep in mind about these. You can either do an image node by itself, you can do an image and text node, or for whatever reason you could do a text node by itself. In this case, we're going to go ahead and do the image and text node, assuming that this is a composite where we've got the subject image or the countable node plus the one that we'll set up is to ultimately is to put the name of the child in the sample order underneath their picture. So these are done in percentages, and the reason that these are done in percentages is because DP2 is going to change or resolve the size of the image based on the total number of images that it finds in the subject records. So if there are 100 kids, they're going to be 100 kids. They're going to be smaller than obviously if there were 10 kids, depending on the range of your pattern and your composite layouts. So this horizontal text gap is -10. The text node width is 120, so that's going to center it. If you think about it, right, it's 120 of the 100% of the image node -10. The vertical text gap is 10%, which means it's going to be 10% away. The height is going to be 20% of the overall image node, and again, It's going to be flexible based on what the number of nodes end up being on the page. The minimum horizontal gap and the minimum vertical gap simply is a way of telling DP2 how close together those should be, depending again on the overall size of your page and the number of nodes that DP2 is trying to populate. We have hold aspect ratio. You don't need to. You could select a maximum width and height, and I'm just going to change this so it's more closer to a wallet size if there are only a few on the page. But here you can select a style, and a style is a way of defining the attributes in any given node. So in the countable nodes, I've selected green oval because that's one that I happen to use in another example. I'll go ahead and leave that green oval. It just puts a green stroke around the node so that you can see it. But if you had title and text, so let's say we say that's the black gold text style. The images, if you've seen the pattern video, you remember we talked about if there were images that were not part of the countable nodes, maybe it's a logo. In fact, maybe it's some other graphic. You could have a style. The output specification is going to tell DP2 what printer those go to. So what you would do is you would create an output specification based on a configuration that you had set up either in the output to disk or whatever printer this was going to. The pattern directory, I'm actually going to go ahead and change the pattern directory that's going to use those patterns that we specified in our pattern editor. Let's go. You could select to put a background image in here. You could actually go out and select an image, as I said earlier, or in the last video, it's going to go to the last folder. But you could, if you had background images in your artwork folders in DP2, you could go ahead and select one, and I'll just go ahead and select one. I think it'll make it a little more interesting to look at. So now we've got a background image, but you could populate the background image from the Composite Job Generator as well. So now I could select to just do size 23, or I could do a range. So what you're looking at here is the combination of all of the decisions that I made on the new composite window. And I generated 24. You could have done the whole range. Before I go, I'll go ahead and open a range so that you can get a sense of what's happening. I'm going to go ahead and say create so that you can see here DP2 is creating 15 and 16. So it's really that easy. If I had created my pattern and made my decisions about what it was going to look like, once you've created that composite, just so that you're aware, what's going to happen is this is just like any other layout. It doesn't behave like it in production because you need to use the Composite Job Generator. But if I wanted to select a node, and say as an example I wanted in this particular one something to be larger, I could go ahead and make any edits and save those edits on each one of these or none of them as I needed to do, so that if there was a particular one or I wasn't totally happy with the placement of things, I could certainly change and move things around so that it's more like what I want to have in production. And once you've created and saved these, you can use them over and over and over and over again, so that you really do create those dynamic templates for production using the Composite Job Generator. And that is the Composite Layout. Thank you.